The fork chimed against the glass. Light, but commanding, and the room folded toward my mother without resistance. Conversations thinned. The television flickered behind us, a muted countdown looping as if time itself was pacing. "You all know Erin's been overwhelmed," my mother announced, smiling the way she did when she believed the decision had already been made. "Starting in February, Molly will cover her rent." The words landed cleanly. Too clean. No pause. No glance my way. I felt my grip tighten around the stem of my glass, not from shock, but recognition. This was familiar, just louder. This is a story created by the author of the Family Afterlight channel for educational and inspirational purposes, and it does not portray any specific real-life individual. My father leaned back in his chair, folding his hands across his stomach. Family steps up. His tone carried the weight of principle. "That's what we raised you to do." Erin kept her eyes on her plate. No protest. No surprise. Just relief dressed up as exhaustion. Paige shifted beside me, her shoulders lifting, then dropping, as if she had rehearsed speaking and abandoned it at the last second. I took a breath and let the silence stretch. Not because I needed time, but because silence had always been my role. The dependable space where everyone else placed their expectations. From now on, my voice entered the room calmly, almost politely. My mother nodded, "Until she's back on her feet." That phrase again, back on her feet, as if she had ever been standing. "Rent is $1,450 a month," my father added, helpful, practical. "You can handle that." The children laughed from the living room, unaware that a line had just been drawn through the center of the table. I looked at Erin. Her hands stayed folded, her shoulders stayed slumped. The posture of someone who had already won. This wasn't discussed. I offered, not challenging, just stating a fact. My mother's smile tightened. "We didn't think it needed to be. You're stable. You don't have kids. You understand." Understanding had become a trap years ago. The television flashed 11:59. Someone turned up the volume. 10 seconds. 9. "If you're going to make this difficult," my father cut in, voice low, "don't come back complaining when things change." 8. 7. I lifted my glass, stood, and met my mother's eyes, not with anger, with clarity. Then this is where I step back. 6. 5. Her smile faltered. Paige's breath caught. Erin finally looked up, confusion breaking through entitlement. 4. 3. I set the glass down untouched. "Good luck paying your problems." 2. 1. Cheers erupted as I turned away. Midnight hit behind me, loud and hollow, fireworks exploding on a screen I no longer faced. I left my coat on the hook. I left my scarf on the chair. I left a year of swallowed obligations sitting beside the untouched roast. Outside, the air cut sharp, honest. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel guilt following me out the door. Just the strange steadiness that comes when a story finally shifts. If this moment feels familiar, stay with me. Some truths only surface when someone finally walks away. Morning arrived quietly, as if nothing had happened. My kitchen clock ticked with unnecessary confidence while coffee steamed between my hands. I opened my banking app before the first sip cooled. The list was longer than I remembered. 14 months of automatic transfers. $1,450 every month marked rent. Smaller amounts scattered in between. 300 here, 400 there, labeled groceries, school fees, utilities. None of it felt dramatic. That was the problem. One tap ended the rent transfer. Another removed the utility coverage. I scrolled lower and paused at my father's name. $1,180 sent for his truck repair 2 winters ago. Still labeled temporary. I closed that line too. The screen refreshed. Silence followed. My phone vibrated within minutes. "Something's wrong." Erin's message appeared. The rent didn't come through. I set the phone face down and finished my coffee. Another vibration. Can you check on your end? I rinsed the mug slowly, placed it on the rack, then picked the phone back up. Nothing is wrong. My reply read, "Everything is exactly as it should be." The typing bubble appeared, disappeared, returned. "You promised." Her next message insisted. "The boys start school again next week." Promises. That word had always belonged to me, never to them. The phone rang. I let it ring. 6 minutes later, a voicemail arrived, layered with sobs and breathless blame. "You're doing this at the worst possible time. You know how overwhelmed I am. You know how much the kids need stability." By noon, my mother's name lit up the screen. "You embarrassed us." Her voice cut sharp, skipping any greeting. "People noticed you walking out." I noticed the announcement. My tone stayed level. That was new. "This isn't about you." She pressed on. "This is about family. You've always been reliable." Reliable had never sounded like a compliment, more like a role no one else wanted. "I won't be paying another cent." A pause stretched thin enough to feel. "So you're just abandoning her?" "I've been carrying her." The words came quietly. "There's a difference." The call ended without ceremony. By evening, the notifications stacked like unpaid bills, missed calls, unread texts. Aaron again, this time shorter, sharper. "You're really doing this." I opened my ledger, not the app this time, the one I kept for myself. Dates, amounts, notes written during moments of hope and obligation, a year of invisible support, neatly recorded and never acknowledged. My phone buzzed once more. Paige's name. "You okay?" Her message asked, small and careful. "I am," I answered. "Are you?" A long pause followed. "Then I think you did the right thing." I stared at the words longer than necessary. The room felt different, not lighter, clearer. The transfers were gone. The silence that replaced them was louder than any argument we'd ever had. By the third day, my phone stopped vibrating and started attacking. Aaron's name flashed again, this time followed by a string of messages that arrived too fast to read one at a time. "You can't just disappear. Mom's freaking out." The landlord sent a reminder. "I need you to answer me." I read them in order, slowly, then locked the screen. An hour later, a longer message appeared, carefully structured, like she'd rehearsed it with an audience in mind. "I never wanted this." Her words insisted, "I hate asking you for help, but you know how hard it's been since Ryan left. You know I'm doing my best." Doing her best had never included looking for work. That detail stayed conveniently unmentioned. My mother didn't text. She called. "This silence is cruel." Her voice cut in the moment I answered. "If you're angry, say it. Don't punish everyone. I'm not punishing anyone. You know exactly what you're doing." She pushed back. "Aaron's landlord doesn't care about principles. People are starting to talk. People were watching when you volunteered my money." A sharp inhale crossed the line. "We thought you'd understand." "You always do." Understanding had been my leash. That evening, my father finally reached out, not with urgency, but with disappointment carefully wrapped in restraint. This isn't how adults handle conflict. His message read, "You walk away when things get uncomfortable." I stared at the words, then typed back, "I walked away when decisions stopped being mine." No reply followed. The next morning, Aaron's social media changed tone. Gone were the vague quotes. In their place appeared something heavier. A photo of her kitchen table, half cleared, sunlight catching a stack of unopened mail. Some people only care when it's convenient. The caption read, "Single mothers learn who's real fast." The comments came quickly. Heart emojis, words like strong and brave. Someone asked how they could help. I watched without engaging, the familiar urge to explain rising and then settling back down. Explaining had never saved me before. By afternoon, Paige called. "They're not handling this well." Her voice stayed low. "Mom keeps saying you're being stubborn." And what do you think? A pause stretched. Then honesty slipped through. "I think they're scared. And they don't know how to deal with it without you fixing things." That landed heavier than any accusation. "I won't fix this." The words felt firm in my mouth. "I can't." "I know," she replied softly. "They don't." That night, Aaron tried one last approach. A single message, stripped of drama. "If we lose the apartment, it's on you." I let the phone rest on the table, untouched. The silence between us thickened, no longer passive, no longer gentle. It had become something else entirely. I found the link the way most things unravel now, quietly, without permission. Paige sent it with no commentary, just the blue preview sitting between us like evidence. The title sat at the top in careful, sympathetic wording, "Helping a mother stay on her feet." Beneath it, my mother's voice lived in text form. Not her tone exactly, but the version she used when she wanted the world to lean in. After an unexpected withdrawal of promised family support, Erin and her 2 children are at risk of losing their home in East Mesa. Any help means everything. The goal read $8,500. A photo followed. Erin, eyes tired but clean, one arm around each boy. The framing was deliberate. No clutter, no context. My phone buzzed almost immediately. "You didn't have to make this public." My message to my mother appeared on screen. Her response came faster than expected. "We had no choice. People care. That's not a crime. You rewrote the story. We told the part that matters." She countered. "You didn't want to be involved. This is how we protect the kids." Protect. That word had become flexible in her hands. By evening, comments filled the page. "She's so strong. No one should go through this alone. Where's the rest of the family?" That one sat unanswered longer than the rest. My father finally reached out, not by text, but by email. The subject line read simply, "Concern." "This is getting out of hand," his message warned. "People are forming opinions without knowing everything. They know exactly what you told them." My reply returned. "We needed to act," he pressed. "You left us no option." "I left you with options." The words felt steady, just not my bank account. Another message appeared from Aaron. Different this time. Short, direct. "The fundraiser isn't about you. Everything is about choices." My response went through. Even this. A notification chimed. A new donation. $20. A comment followed beneath it. "Why isn't the family stepping up?" I closed the app without scrolling further. The power dynamic had shifted again, not because of money, but because the truth was being bent in public. And this time, silence wasn't just restraint. It was refusal. The notice arrived in Aaron's mailbox 3 days into February. Not dramatic, not threatening. Just a white envelope with thin black text and a deadline that didn't care about feelings. She called that night, voice sharpened by panic. "They're saying the rent is overdue. This is serious now. It was serious in January." My reply stayed even. "You knew this would happen." I knew it would happen eventually. The truth settled between us. That's not the same thing. By the second week, the language changed. The messages stopped circling emotion and went straight for urgency. The landlord posted something on the door. "They're giving me 10 days. Mom says you're being stubborn. 10 days isn't an ambush." I answered, "It's a process." She didn't like that word. Process meant no shortcut, no rescue. By March, the envelope color changed. This one came from the court. Hearing scheduled. Date printed clearly. No room for interpretation. My mother called the same afternoon. "We need to talk like adults." Her voice pressed, clipped but controlled. "This has gone far enough. It's gone exactly as far as it was always going to. You're acting like this is a lesson, she accused. People don't learn under this kind of pressure. People adapt when the pressure stays. The words landed without heat. They just don't like it. My father joined the call without announcement. You could stop this today. I could. I agreed. And then nothing would change. Silence followed. Not shock. Calculation. Aaron texted later that night. A screenshot this time. Court date circled in red. I can't believe you're letting it get this far. I'm not letting it. The response came slowly. I'm not controlling it. The distinction mattered more to me than it ever had to her. By early April, Paige called with a lowered voice. Mom's been opening mail that isn't hers. That's new. She says it's because she's worried. Worry had become a justification for everything. The hearing came and went without spectacle. Aaron lost. The judge didn't ask about family dynamics. Only numbers, rent unpaid, notices served correctly, timeline respected. She called afterward, breathless. They gave me 30 days. 30 days is time. I answered. Use it. For what? The question hung there, naked and revealing. That was when Ryan's name surfaced again, not as a complaint this time, but a detail slipped into conversation like an afterthought. He's been emailing, Aaron admitted one evening. Says he's been sober almost a year. That's longer than most promises around here. He's talking about stability. She pushed back, about the boys needing consistency. So are you. Her next message came an hour later. He mentioned court. That word landed differently now. Paige called the next morning. There was an envelope at Mom's house. Legal letterhead, Ryan Fletcher. The timeline shifted again. Not faster, sharper. Eviction had a schedule. Custody had teeth. By the end of April, the lockout date was set. No shouting, no sheriff at the door yet. Just the knowledge that time, once generous, had run out of patience. Aaron's last message that month was short. If this ends badly, remember you could have stopped it. I let the phone rest on the table. Untouched. Consequences didn't need reminders. They arrived on their own. Right on schedule. Ryan showed up on a Wednesday. Not at my door. Not at Aaron's apartment. He arrived where the family always gathered when things went wrong. My parents' house. Paige was the one who called, her voice tight and unfamiliar. He's here, she whispered, with a folder. That word settled heavily. A folder meant preparation. It meant time. It meant this wasn't an impulse fueled by anger or guilt. I didn't rush over. I didn't offer advice. I waited. An hour later, Aaron's name lit up my phone. When her voice came through, it sounded thinner than panic, stripped of its usual armor. He filed. She breathed. Partial custody. Maybe more. Did he say why he didn't have to? A sharp, uneven laugh followed. He brought proof. Job records. Lease papers. Letters from people who've seen him with the boys. 8 months sober. He even knew their school schedules. That detail cut deepest. He hadn't just returned. He'd been paying attention. He thinks I'm unstable. She went on. Mom's crying. Dad locked himself in the garage. They're all looking at me like this is my fault. It is your case. The words landed quietly. Not theirs. Not mine. Her breathing hitched. I need you right now. I closed my eyes not to escape, but to steady myself. You need a lawyer and consistency. I need my sister. She snapped, frustration pushing through fear. I need you to help me fix this. Fix. The old word, polished and familiar. I won't fix it. My voice stayed low. I won't sabotage you either. Silence followed, heavier than any argument we'd ever had. My mother called next. No anger this time. No performance. We really messed up. Her admission came raw, unguarded, all of us. That was new. It didn't soften me, but it changed the shape of the moment. This has gone too far. She continued. The boys could be taken. Ryan is their father, I reminded her. Not a stranger. He disappeared, she argued weakly. He came back prepared. The truth didn't bend. That matters. Later that night, Paige called again. This time, she didn't whisper. They're losing it, she admitted. Mom keeps pacing. Dad hasn't spoken since Ryan left. Erin keeps saying she's too drained to think. And you. A pause stretched, then honesty surfaced. They asked me to help. Help how cover a month of rent, maybe 2, just until court calms down. And what did you say I told them I needed time? Time had been the only thing Erin had ever been given. Paige, I offered gently. If you step in now, nothing changes. They'll survive this moment and repeat the pattern. I know. She exhaled. I'm just tired of being the next target. That word mattered. Target. Not helper. Not daughter. Desperate people grab whoever's closest. I continued. That doesn't mean you owe them anything. The next morning, Erin left a voicemail. No accusations. No demands. Just fear. Please. Her voice cracked. If I lose the kids, I don't know who I am. I listened to it twice. Not because guilt pulled me back, but because something had finally shifted. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't blaming me. She was standing at the edge of something real. I didn't call back immediately. That afternoon, Paige sent a message instead. A single line, quiet and deliberate. I submitted 3 job applications today. I stared at the screen longer than necessary. In the middle of chaos, something small and brave had taken root. That night, Erin texted again. Ryan wants mediation. Then show up. I answered, prepared. No emojis followed, no rebuttal. Just the quiet acknowledgement that this fight couldn't be paid away. For the first time since January, the problem in front of us wasn't money. It was choice. The pressure didn't disappear when Erin ran out of options. It shifted. Paige called late, her voice carrying the kind of strain that comes from being cornered politely. They sat me down tonight, like an intervention, but quiet. What did they want? Mom talked about family pulling together. Dad talked about responsibility. A pause followed. Then they made it sound reasonable. Reasonable is their favorite costume. They offered childcare. She continued. If I helped Erin with 1 month of rent, maybe 2, they'd cover mornings so I could keep working. The deal had the softness of a trap. Support wrapped around obligation, tied with gratitude. What did you tell them that I needed to think? Her breath shook. They looked relieved, like I'd already agreed. I pictured it too clearly, my mother's hopeful smile, my father's quiet nod. Erin's eyes fixed on Paige instead of the problem in front of her. They're scared, Paige added. Ryan's lawyer keeps emailing. The court date is close. They're not asking you to help Erin, I offered. They're asking you to replace me. Silence settled on the line. I don't want to become invisible, she admitted. I don't want my life to stop before it starts. It won't. The reassurance came steady. Not if you don't trade it away. Another pause. Then a confession slipped through. I already had an interview. When this morning. Dental office on Main. Front desk. That's real. I replied, that's yours. They asked if I could start part-time. $18 an hour. Her voice lifted, then dropped again. Mom said I should postpone it. Just until things calm down. Things don't calm down. I answered. They get managed. Or avoided. I'm tired of being available, Paige whispered. I want to be dependable to myself. That was the shift. Not loud, not dramatic, permanent. The next day, my mother called me, her tone careful, as if stepping across thin ice. Paige is being difficult. She's being independent. She's refusing to help when the family is drowning. She's choosing not to drown with you. That's unfair. My mother pushed back. We're asking for a little flexibility. You're asking for control. The correction landed cleanly, disguised as concern. My father took the phone, his voice heavy. This division is on you. I didn't divide anyone. The response stayed calm. I stopped absorbing everything. That evening, Paige texted. I accepted the job. I stared at the message until the tension in my shoulders eased. Not because the family had found balance, but because someone had stepped out of the pattern. A few minutes later, another text followed. Mom cried. Dad didn't say much. Aaron hasn't replied. They'll adjust. I typed back. Or they won't. Either way. Keep going. The scapegoat role had been vacant for years. This time, it stayed empty. I sent the invitation on a Thursday afternoon, plain and direct. Dinner at my place. Sunday at 6. No explanations. No conditions. The silence that followed felt intentional. Paige responded first. I'll bring something easy. My father's reply came hours later. We'll be there. My mother didn't answer. Aaron waited 2 days before sending a single line. I'll come. I'll bring dessert. Sunday arrived without ceremony. I cooked because I wanted the space to feel grounded, not because I needed approval. By the time the doorbell rang, I was ready. Paige stepped in first, shoulders straighter than I remembered. She placed a bag on the counter and smiled, small but steady. Work was busy. I like it. That matters. I offered, meeting her eyes. My parents followed, polite, cautious. My mother scanned the room as if searching for tension she could manage. My father avoided my gaze, then nodded once, restrained. Aaron entered last, boys trailing behind her. No makeup, hair pulled back, a pie balanced in her hands like an offering. I didn't know how long we'd stay. That's fine, I replied, stepping aside. Dinner unfolded slowly. Not awkward, careful. Paige talked about learning the scheduling software at work. My father mentioned clearing out the garage. My mother nodded along, eager to contribute without directing. Aaron barely touched her food. Halfway through the meal, I set my fork down and turned toward Paige. I'm proud of you. The table stilled. Paige blinked, then laughed softly. I'm just trying. You didn't wait for permission. I continued. You moved. My mother nodded too quickly. She's really stepping up. Aaron's eyes filled before she spoke. I need to say something. No one interrupted. I used some of the fundraiser money to pay off credit cards, she admitted. I told myself it was temporary, that I'd fix it before court noticed. Her voice cracked. Ryan's lawyer noticed. My parents froze. That matters. My father murmured. Aaron nodded. I know. I took a breath and let it land. This is where things change. They all looked at me then. No one is carrying anyone anymore. The words stayed calm, deliberate, not financially, not emotionally. I won't save anyone, and I won't interfere with anyone trying to save themselves. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it. Aaron nodded immediately, relief and fear tangled together. Paige exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. My father lifted his glass slightly. To starting over. It wasn't a celebration. It was an agreement. After dinner, Paige packed leftovers. Aaron tied one of the boys' shoes without sighing. My mother lingered near the door, then leaned in for a hug. It wasn't performative, just brief, real. As they left, the house stayed quiet, not empty, settled. The rules were different now, and for the first time, no one tried to negotiate them. A few months passed without announcements. Erin started working mornings at a small cafe near the bus line. She mentioned it once, casually, as if the effort mattered more than the approval. It's early. Her voice carried fatigue and something steadier beneath it. But it's mine. Paige called in the evenings, usually after her shift. I paid my bills this month without help. There was pride there, quiet and earned. Later, she shared plans for evening classes, spoken carefully, like something fragile she intended to protect. My parents adjusted without speeches. My father sold tools he'd kept for years, the ones he always claimed he'd pass down someday. My mother stopped posting inspirational quotes online. When she invited me for coffee, she asked about my week instead of my availability. One night, Erin sent a photo, black apron, name tag pinned crooked, a tired smile that didn't ask for anything. I replied with 2 words, "Keep going." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. At the next family dinner, hosted at Paige's place, no one asked me for money. Paige noticed before I did. "Do you realize no one's asked you for anything tonight?" Her smile held disbelief and relief in equal measure. I looked around at the table. She was right. Later, as we packed leftovers, she leaned closer. "It feels different." It is. The truth came gently. Everyone's holding their own peace now. Change didn't arrive as forgiveness or victory. It came as responsibility, taken quietly and kept. If you've ever been the one holding everything together, know this stepping back isn't abandonment. Sometimes it's the only way growth begins. If this story resonated, stay with us. Share it with someone who needs permission to set a boundary. Some stories aren't meant to save others. They're meant to remind us we're allowed to save ourselves.